Yeah, because then you get the wrong audience, don't you?
Exactly. Yeah.
Right, well, I'll stop avoiding it now. We'll get started. Yeah, the purpose of the video, as we've said off screen, I want to talk about the whole photographer videographer dynamic on the wedding day, and I suppose around the wedding day and after it and stuff.
Yeah.
And the relationship, because I got asked about it. So for those of you watching that don't know Neil, he is a wedding photographer, Neil Redfern.
Hi everyone.
But you're also on YouTube as well, so I'll give you you can plug.
No, please do.
Neil's got a brilliant, if you follow me and you're into weddings, videography, photography, whatever, then you don't know Neil, check out his channel, I'll link it and all that sort of stuff.
Oh, that's very kind, thank you. No, I started doing it about maybe a year ago now, and yeah, just really enjoy it. It's quite addictive.
Yeah,
it is, isn't it? Yeah.
Definitely, yeah.
I thought you'd been doing it a lot longer, because I found you when I started and I was like, oh, this is a guy that I can follow. Go on, sorry. The reason I was drawn to your stuff is because you're also UK, and all I ever saw before me was Americans.
It's totally the same. Well, I first started, I'm in a group on Facebook, which is all to do with off-camera flash, a big group called the Magmod community, and somebody had asked me there how I took a particular photograph, and I thought, well, it'll just be easy just to make a little video up of it, put that on YouTube without it really going anywhere, and then people started watching it, and I thought, oh, actually, I'll do another one, but it was something that I didn't really envisage it turning into like a regular thing that I do. It's just evolved into that, and for the first 20 videos, literally, I didn't even put my face on camera because it's so not natural to me to be in front of a camera. That took me a lot of getting used to, and
it comes naturally to anyone, does it? It takes a bit of getting used
to. Yeah, just simple things like hearing your own voice. Now I've been more used to it, but at the time, it was like, oh, that's off. You're editing it like that. Oh, don't listen. And then the thought of seeing my own face was even worse. But
how can I Photoshop myself on video?
Exactly, yeah.
But we digress. So anyway, 50 million subscribers, is it now?
He's going on.
He's a lot more than I am, and he's brilliant. So I'll link it if you want to check Neil out, because he's great. But because you are a wedding photographer, and we have done a wedding together, which is a recent thing,
very recently,
last month. So I thought it'd be ideal to get you on to talk about this whole dynamic, because somebody asked.
Thank you for having me.
Shout out to Jess, who asked about the dynamic of working with a photographer on the day from our side, but it's good to get it from your perspective as well. Because do you work with videographers often at weddings? I know we've discussed this.
Yeah, more so than I think I used to. I would say now it's getting up to about half the weddings that I do will have a videographer. Now that wasn't the case a few years ago. I've been doing this now for 14 years, and earlier on it was quite rare to have a videographer, and when you did, it was someone with a big, massive sort of camera. And I would say you're probably looking at maybe 1 in 5, 1 in 6 at the time, but that's definitely changed the past 2-3 years.
And come back up, or is it?
No, I think it's just steadily grown over the years, to the point where now I would say it is about half and half, which it would never used to be that many.
As we were saying before, it's mad, because most photographers I speak to are anywhere between 1 in 10 and 1 in 5 usually. Anything more frequent than that is rare. So for you to say every other wedding, but I suppose, am I allowed to say that you do quite big budget weddings or high end?
I don't know.
Good weddings.
Yeah, I think I don't know where. I mean, I don't know. It's such a hard thing to know where you sit, isn't it? I would say that I'm probably mid to the.
Sorry, that was a cruel question.
No, not at all. I would sort of say I'm probably guess that I'm mid to a little bit higher than that. I think that maybe does have an impact, but I think it's more so just that video is becoming more popular now due to it being a bit more accessible to everyone, because, going back again 6-7 years, the DSLR that I would have been using wouldn't have video capabilities. Now, even though I personally have no interest, apart from standing in front and making YouTube videos, I've got no interest in filming anything, but I have the tools to do that if I wanted to.
You can do both on the same camera.
Yeah, so I think it's because of that. That's basically.
We'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the photographers are moving over to the Sonys, which are obviously what we're making video on.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you've got the option to do both just as well.
Totally. And to be honest, if I hadn't moved to Sony and was still on my old Nikons, I don't think I'd be doing YouTube because I wouldn't have the ability to make a video. So I say, although filming a wedding has no interest in me whatsoever, I'm still utilising the video capabilities of the camera just in a different way. Yeah.
Do you always get on with the videographers?
Usually.
They have. I can honestly say that I'll put it this way. I've got on with every single videographer I've worked with, unless they don't know what they're doing in the job. And by that I mean like their style is so at odds to mine that it's inevitable. It's not going to be an easy ride, basically. But the vast majority of videographers I've worked with, like you, when we work together, are very much akin to my style, which is like very documentary, staying in the background. Yeah, and I think that's what makes it like quite easy to get along with. Where there's been the odd occasion, and it is rare. I'm thinking one probably might have been last year, the year before, where it was a guy who would literally go up and start speaking to the bride, saying, "Oh, what do you want? You got any words for your groom to be?" So, that sort of thing. And then he'd go to the groom, "What would you like to say to the bride?" And I have no idea what that mishmash of an edit's going to look like. But yeah, they're the ones where we've not got on.
Messages to camera, kind of.
Yeah.
Which I'm not knocking for anyone that doesn't, but it's
Fair
not.
play to you. You're wrong, but fair play.
It's not for me. I worked with a photographer last month actually at Merridale Manor on a Jewish wedding. He was horrendous.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, it's weird because it's the same way around. Must be the same.
Yeah, but it's different because every wedding I go to, there's a photographer always without fail.
Yeah.
And I've not had a single one that hasn't been yet.
I've never really thought of it the other way around, but yeah, I can
so
imagine.
I always have someone to hang out with.
Yeah.
But I suppose from your side of things, it's different, and I rightly or wrongly, I've discussed this with. I think I discussed it with Jebbo because I had him on the do a video, and rightly or wrongly, I always think that the photographer's got priority over me. So that's why I'm very happy to let you do your thing, and I'll fit round you.
Which is really kind of you, and I always appreciate it. I don't think that's necessarily like the truth in terms of like who's got priority.
That's it, because really we should both have equal, because they were doing the same job for the couple. So
that's exactly right. You've got to like leave your, I don't want to say like ego at the door, but you've got to basically think you're doing a job for a couple. You're not there to try and do the best job for you. You're doing a service to provide to a couple, and it's not fair if one or the other takes precedent over that, because it's going to be
it should be 50-50, and it normally it just works seamlessly, like you say.
Yeah, totally,
I maybe have one or two a year that do take more of a direct approach and like treat me like I'm, which again probably shouldn't be the way, but I'm happy for them to do that because I know I can fit around them because of my style.
Yeah.
And I do think that a photographer's got to get that exact moment, whereas with film I can get a few moments around and like build a picture over. It's not.
Yeah,
you don't have to have that exact frame, whereas you do.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but I still think that like for a photographer, that's not like an excuse to hinder you.
Yeah.
Because I definitely change the way that I work if I'm working with, I would say videographer. I don't know if I should say videographer or filmmaker. I don't know what people like these days. But either way, the video guy. Yeah. Cinematographer as well, yeah, exactly. But no, I definitely do change my approach. I don't always like to do that, but you have to compromise. For example, like one of my big things, the way that I work is to get in close, like to get close to moments on a 35mm lens. Now, that's not fair of me to do that at certain points of the day if it's going to compromise what you're doing, so I take a little bit of a step
back. I can, now that you mention that, I can remember in June on that Merridale one, you're probably one of the more accommodating photographers I've ever worked with, because you were doing that, going in and getting your shot, and then turning back and going, do you need anything before I move? Like before you move on to the next shot, do you need anything? And it's not very often I get that, because normally the photographer will be doing the posing, then they'll go, right, now let's do this one, and I'm just kind of trying to keep up, and then they'll turn around at the end and go, oh sorry, did you need anything?
Yeah.
And I never do, so I'm just like, no, that's cool, carry on. But yeah, you were very accommodating in that respect.
Well, I try to be, and I say, because I think ultimately, like you know, it's to use I don't know if we can swear on this, but like to use Johnny Draper's mantra, it's like don't be a dick. Yeah, always, because if I am working the way that I would work, if I was literally working solo, then I would be in your video too much. Like it's just a fact. So, and I don't want to be. You know, I don't want them to. Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, no one wants my mug in the video. So I will always like compromise, but not to the point where I think your work gets really like, you know, isn't as good. You just need to be a bit more mindful.
Yeah, and it works the other way, because some videographers do a bit. I don't do any posing, so I guess I don't. It's a weird one for me, because the photographer will do his stuff and then he'll turn around and say, do you need anything?
Yeah.
And I always say no, because I've already got everything in between. I never do any, but some videographers will. So if you're a videographer that does that, then you've got to be mindful of the photographer. And
100%, yeah. I think that's the only potential part of the day which I can see where it is, that there's definitely an advantage to just sorting that out beforehand. Because for me, I think when I'm with a couple doing a portrait session, I try and inject a flow into it of like energy, and you know, I sort of know, right, I've got like a little plan in my mind.
I want to get it done as quick as possible for those guys,
exactly,
so they can get back to their drinks.
And as well, like sometimes I'll get the couple interacting, and I'll know what I'm going to do. Question A, I'm asking that question to get them interacting, because I'm then going to ask them question B, and there's a flow to it. So if I'm stopping every 2 seconds and somebody else is doing something completely different, then that's. But all that needs is just a conversation 5 minutes before. Would you like your own time with them? Because
well, going back to the start of the day, when you turn up and you meet each other, it's that initial like, hello, how are you doing? I'm the videographer, good to meet you, whatever. And you can get that out of the way then, can't you?
Of course, yeah.
Because I always say, do you mind if I tag along when you're doing couple stuff?
Yeah.
And I always say, are you doing couple stuff? Wait, like when and where? And do
Yeah.
you mind me tagging along? And I'll stay out your way. And
Yeah.
then just get it out.
Yeah, and likewise, I think it's important that again, it's teamwork. Because I remember when we did the sunset shots, which were beautiful at the wedding we did, thinking like you need to be there as well. Because at some points we don't always know where each other's going to be in the day. But like, it's not a question of let's go now. Like you know, you need to be involved. Yeah, always.
Yeah, because I've been here and the photographers have been like, no, we don't want the video guy coming with us, so they've just snuck off without me.
Yeah, I just don't see what I mean.
Which I was a bit like, But then the bride went, where's do you not think Adam should be here?
Exactly.
So then they ended up coming back to get me anyway, because the bride had mentioned it. So that's just
then he feels really awkward.
Yeah, of course. So it's made it worse. But that's a perfect reminder that the bride is the boss, and
100%.
Yeah. So it's a weird one, because it's always, apart from those odd occasions, it's always so natural and easy for me. It's I never really think about this whole dynamic too much.
No, and
it just flows. But the amount of people that ask about, how do I get on with from a video side, how do I get on with the photography more?
See, yeah, weirdly, I think that
it feels like we should.
How to say this, and I think this is more of a numbers game, but I think the chances of a photographer coming up against a videographer who they don't particularly work, or their work isn't the same style-wise, is probably much more unlikely than a videographer working with a photographer whose work doesn't, because there are so many photographers that means that the chance of you coming up against someone who maybe doesn't fit into your way of working is a lot higher than mine, if that makes sense. Everyone I come across is probably going to be of a similar sort of style. Yeah. So it is very rare that I would come up like...
The videography has gone very similar style-wise these days anyway. It's a lot sort of one camera, 85mm.
Yeah, whereas you still see...
Interesting, because when I work with photographers, you'd think that would be changing a lot more, and you think it would be that would be the case, but I still work with photographers who go, do you know what, I'm so used to working with these guys that I'm a breath of fresh air sort of thing. Right. And it's like, really, you still see these kind of like massive camera tripod things?
Yeah, it does still happen. They're still out there.
So yeah, they are still out there.
Yeah.
And it's great for me, because then the photographer's like, wow, I'm going to recommend you more now, because you're a lot easier to fit around than the guy with all the kit.
Yeah, totally.
And it's, maybe he's getting amazing production value stuff that I could never get with all his equipment, but it's a compromise, isn't it? of
I don't
getting
know.
along
I mean,
and not, you know, taking the ego out of it, like you say, because it's you want to do it as quick as possible and as easy as possible for the bride and groom, at the expense of getting a couple of shots that you might have wanted.
Of course you do, of course. Well, I think our attitude is probably similar, because I think the couples that we're working for are looking for what we agree with. You know, there are brides out there who want very stylized, very posed images, which probably me and you probably wouldn't maybe be the right people for.
Yeah. And if I've had weddings before where they've said, we want like 3 guys, we want gimbal drone, and I just go, no, I'm not for you. And you've got to own up and say, I'm not your guy.
yeah, you have. Yeah.
Rather than, well, I do anyway. And I'll try and accommodate where I can and just kind of be like, yeah, I'll do anything, and fake it till you make it, sort of thing. But when it's something that production heavy, I'm like, no, I'm not for you, because I wouldn't want to take that on anyway.
For your own back,
Try Stefan. Do you know Stefan?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
Go with Stefan. He'll take all those nightmare weddings. So yeah, going back to style, I work with a photographer that I know really well, and I get on with really well, but our finished product is completely different in terms of the colour, which I always find bizarre from the couple's perspective.
Yeah, I suppose so.
And I don't complain, because it's like we work together, you know, and we get on, it's great, but something that I'm trying big up when I meet couples is like, you want a complementary set of image, you know, when you're talking about similar styles working together, which helps us fit around each other better on the day, but then like the delivery of your images and your video being not necessarily like the same colour or anything, like the same grade on it or anything like that. But
what you're saying. Do
you know what I mean? It's like a complementary set of both. So when you're flicking through your gallery, it ties in with the film much more, because they have been done in.
Yeah, that makes sense. And style, obviously, or the way that an image or a film is processed is a big part of what we do, and a big part of how we get across our style.
You're very creative. You do very creative shots and a lot of off-camera flash stuff as your portfolio pieces.
I'll try to include a few of those.
Yeah. But like, if I would say that I shoot for like natural light and expose for, you know, and keep it quite dark and muted and stuff. And then I'll get booked alongside a photographer who's light and airy, for example.
Yeah.
Just from the bride's point of view, I'm like, I find it interesting that they've gone, we want that photographer, we like the light and airy, and we want those photos on our wall, but we want the film dead moody and dark.
But it is a good point, because when I like recommending videographers, I'm also it's because I've worked with them before. I know that their work is like top notch, and we get on really, really well. I think it's maybe because I'm not looking at it through a videographer's eyes, that I'm looking at like how everything is, that, like you say, that the colour and the grade and everything, but it does make sense that you'd want something that would be similar.
Yeah, I just find it interesting when it's completely different, like just because it's an obvious contrast, like you've got dark and moody on one side and light and airy on the other. From the brides, and there was a photographer at a workshop that said like, you should always be trying to get the couple that, you know, or when because photographers are going to get booked more in advance than video.
Seems to be that the case, yeah.
I always find anyway, because I get recommended by photographers a lot, and I can't very often recommend back, because by the time they book me,
no, of course. I think that's changing. Because I think as film is becoming something that is not just seen as like, I think in the past it was always where we've got a little bit of money left over in the budget, with that maybe couples saw as being a bit of a bonus at the end, like just before the wedding they'd look at booking a videographer. But now I think, because I think it's becoming more popular and more commonplace for videographers to be there at a wedding, that I think they're maybe being booked earlier. But certainly I think, thankfully, I'm always pretty grateful for the fact that I think it's just like people just associate weddings with photography, and
that's it. It's a given, isn't it? Whereas
thankfully.
But you'll be up there with the dress and the venue and stuff.
Yeah,
and
maybe.
We're down there with the chocolate fountain.
No, don't be that bad.
No, it is. It really is.
But I think it's changing. I think it definitely was, yeah, but I do think it's changing.
It's not always, yeah. Some obviously when the inquiry comes in and they're like, we've just got engaged, but we definitely want to film. We've looked at that's great to hear, because those couple are really invested. And then you get the other inquiries that are like, we're getting married in 6 weeks. Are you free?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, hi, how much do you charge?
Yeah. Oh yeah, they're the best ones.
For what?
Yeah.
What do you want?
I have been asked sometimes. It's normally band or videographer.
Yeah. I've had that. I've worked with
band. Like.
my favourite was when me and Howard had a couple inquiring with both of us. Howard being my uncle, who's the singer, and they were like, oh yeah, we love both of you, but we want a video.
Oh no. No way.
We've only got budget, and if we had to choose, we want the video.
Wing was.
Yeah, so I won.
Really?
So they sacked it, and they actually went back to him and went, really sorry, Howard, we've not found the budget. Thanks for your time, but you'll be glad to know we've at least booked your nephew. And he was like, that's not good news.
Is that why you've not done a video with him for a while now? He's just not speaking.
So that was a major win. I liked that. But they made the right choice, obviously, because as great as entertainment is on the day, the memories is more important.
What do you do with the aftermath of that?
It was funny that. But yeah, I think that rests more on the photographer to educate the couple on the kind of videography, purely because you are getting booked. Do you feel like a responsibility to do that, or? Yeah, well, I will. What my sort of common answer, because they'll sometimes even say, not like, can you recommend a videographer? It'll be, should we have one? I was going to ask, what do you look for in someone that you want to recommend, but you've kind of answered it already. Yeah, it's definitely top of the list for me. It's someone that I know I'm going to work well with, and that, I say, mainly goes on our styles being aligned, i.e., documentary. And then the end products. I mean, you obviously want a solid end product, but that's almost secondary to, are we going to get on the day from you? Yeah, the top one is like, I wouldn't recommend anyone, for example, I've not worked with before. I know I didn't really know on a good level. So that's the first thing. But then I also need to have like massive confidence that they're going to deliver obviously a good product, because that's going to reflect on me if not. That's a great point. It's something I always try and advocate, because it's very easy to get sucked up into the art of what we do. Mm-hmm. But I always think that I always try and sell myself as, I'm going to be a nice guy to have on your wedding day. I want the couple to really feel comfortable and get on with me. And I also do, your film is going to be nice as well. Really good stuff. So it's almost like that's secondary to the fact that I'm not going to be a knobhead, basically. No, and so you need to have both. It's like, I could think, that guy does, or girl does the best videos in the world, but it takes them like 5 hours solid with the bride and groom. Because you've got to sacrifice that bit of extra 20 minutes where you might have got some great footage, but you're pissing the bride off. So you've got to rein it in and get the balance. Yeah. Because we talked before about communication, like before the wedding, and how you don't. I know you're going to ask it. I know. Do you get in touch with? It's a question I get asked quite a lot. Is, should I message the photographer before the wedding? No, I must admit I don't. But that's not to say that that's the right answer. I think the right answer is, it's good just to send a quick hello message. But I'm too lazy. Like it's purely laziness. Like most of my failings in what I do is just due to laziness. So no, you should. But to be fair, like I think most of the people I work with, I tend to have worked with before. And as well, this is not saying it's right. It's not right at all. But it seems that like the video guy does get in touch with me because they're not as lazy as me. Yeah, sometimes. But it'll be nothing more than like, hi, I'm looking forward to working with. Yeah, or does it not bother you?
To be perfectly honest, no.
Do you give them a bit of a stalk if you find out who it is before the day? Do you like check them out and see?
I have done, yes.
And then if you see their film and you go, okay, they might.
There have been times
you think, oh, this is going to be an interesting one.
Yeah, and then you're on the back foot, because I've done it with. I always stalk the photographer, always, and it's like you go on and you see their stuff and you go, okay, yeah, I think they're gonna, like, we're gonna get on, or vice versa, like, they might be a bit more.
Yeah, I think you can normally
hard
tell.
Work, or I'm not. When I'm working with a photographer that I know and I'm friends with, it's like, I'm looking forward to today. And when it's someone you don't know, it's in the back of your mind of like, what if they're a nightmare? And they're probably not going to be, and they never are, but. You're going into the day like not looking forward to it as much.
That is true. Yeah. If you look at if I was looking at
You can, do a little bit.
It's almost unhelpful. That means it's almost potentially unhelpful to look in advance because it's not going to like change anything.
Right, yeah.
But no, I think you always naturally do have a little look. But to be fair, even if like I've rarely come across someone who hasn't been a nice person who I've been working with. I say the only issues have come with a clash of styles.
Yeah. But I think it's just a case of like this pressure and the stress to deliver what you know.
Yeah, to deliver
what you think. Yeah. And then if your styles do clash and you start getting a bit frustrated because you're not able to deliver what you're used to, and then that's when you potential to fall out. And I don't think there's just people that are out and out horrible people.
No, I can honestly say, like, even when I'm looking back at the times where it's not worked so well, it's never been because of a literal like personality clash. It's just been a style thing.
There is one guy that's not very nice, but we won't discuss. We'll talk about that after.
Camera, okay.
Yeah. See if you know him, or she.
Yeah. General, isn't it?
Can't stand Johnny Draper, honestly. But yeah, people. I think I get asked, should I message the photographer? I don't know. I have a thing in my booking thing, nearer to the wedding when they fill out all the details for the couple. Who's your photographer? Do you have that? Like, who's your video?
Well, ish. It just says, do you have a videographer? So I should just amend that, and if so, who?
Photographer, because they're always going to have one. And then when I see a name I recognise, like this Friday coming up, I've got James Tracy and Tony Darcy.
Cool.
So I was like, oh, I can't wait for this. It's going to be a good day. I'm excited because I know them both. And then when it's someone I don't know, I can give them a quick.
Yeah.
But I never really message him. I don't know if it. Yeah. Like
From a photographer standpoint, it's not something that like I sort of feel is a big deal. I think what's more important is when you arrive, whoever's there earlier on the day, like you just make a point of saying, "Oh hi, I'm Neil. Like love to meet you." If I'm in, and I will always say, as the video person you said to me as well, if I'm in your way, just say. And I think that's a nice thing. Just look.
Oh, absolutely. The first thing, apart from saying hello to the couple.
Yeah.
Then you go straight and introduce yourself to the photographer and the other suppliers, because I mean I suppose it's akin to like, do you need to see the venue before the day? No, you can just turn up 10 minutes early and source it out on the day. Maybe you don't need to message ahead of time. You can just make time to chat on the way.
So, because I normally, again, it's just a style thing, but I normally give myself plenty of time in the morning because I like to spend quite a lot of time at prep just to build, like warm up into the day and everything. So there's always plenty of time just to go and say hello. And that's, you can normally tell them within a minute or two that, that everything's going to be fine.
Actually, I sometimes get brides and grooms saying, I've booked this as my photographer. Do you know them? Do you need me to put you in touch with them? That's something that I do hear occasionally.
Right.
To which I say, yeah, sure, get them to like drop me a message if they want to. Like, I don't say no, I'm not bothered.
Yeah. I wouldn't. Yeah, I agree with you.
But I think it's an important thing for the bride and groom to know that we're...
It really is, and I think that's something that we can overlook sometimes. I think they get much more confidence knowing that like you're getting on really well with whoever it is you're working with.
Because when you're doing that the portrait session, if they can see us bouncing off each other and getting along, then it's going to make them feel more at ease and more reassured that we know what we're doing, sort of thing.
Yeah, and with that wedding, I can't remember which way around it was, but the bride had mentioned that they booked you beforehand, and I was saying, oh, that's brilliant. I know I haven't worked with them yet, but really looking forward to it. And I think that's got to be a good thing for them to hear, rather than, oh, or okay, you've booked that person. Like, so no, it's always nice for them, and then gives them reassurance.
Yeah, because if you said, oh yeah, I've worked with them, and then all of a sudden, what
regards, Neil, I'm going now.
Yeah, I think it is nice, and it's I get in the morning when you go to the bride and she's having her makeup done, and she's like, oh, you two know each other?
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, we've worked together before, and then all of a sudden she's like, oh, brilliant, that's nice.
Yeah,
that's nice to know.
If I was in their shoes, I'd want to know that like my suppliers were all getting on well and knew each other and everything. Yeah.
I've got a note about other suppliers as well. What have I put down? Things like the DJ photographer, the DJ florist, bands, that the other suppliers on the day, because my example was that I always speak to the DJ at night to see what lighting he's going to put on the bride and groom for the first dance.
Yeah.
Because and they've got crazy coloured LEDs and stuff.
Yeah.
And I sometimes say, have you got like just a white setting that you can just leave on so that I can shoot into it, or like for the first dance it's easy. I always try and chat to the DJ for a practical, from a video point of view, but other than that I just do the niceties of I'm
the same.
Do you feel like you need to get on with the other suppliers and make a point?
Yeah, I'd like to think that I always will get on well with anyone. I don't necessarily need anything from them as such. Doing this a long time.
It's just a bonus for me if I can get the DJ to light.
Yeah, I think that's
white light as opposed to all the coloured.
Yeah, I must admit,
just for the first dance.
Yeah, I agree. It's slightly different because I can use flash.
Well, I don't use lighting, so I just when I've got it with the DJ, it's just bonus.
Yeah.
But like makeup artists in the morning, getting in when there's a nice window and they put them in the far corner.
That is a really.
That's for me would be I could talk for a long time about
the video.
Yeah, because that goes into my whole. There's a guy that I've name checked a few times, like on my channel, called Tyler Workin, who's a phenomenal documentary wedding photographer based in America, and I've been on a workshop with him. Like he's critiqued my stuff and seen him talking a few times, and he's instilled in me this sort of principle that anything you move is your influence on the day. So much as sometimes I might think, oh, if they were over there, that would be much better. I've got Tyler's voice saying, yeah, but that's not. So that's a question I still don't know the answer to.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Because then you're getting deeper, thinking, well, doing a portrait shoot, that's your influence. Where do you stop? I don't know.
Yeah. And then I think in the back of my mind, I'd be worried that the bride might be thinking, what's he doing that? Why is he getting?
Yeah, and I think.
And she probably isn't.
Yeah, but I'm the same as you. I think I overthink what the bride's perception would be a lot, because my whole way of working is to deliver everything for them. It's like I don't show any pictures ever on the back of my camera to a couple on the day, because I think, what if they think, yeah, do you know what I mean? And I think I've lost them. So I don't like to.
I never do it. And
even if you're thinking, God, this is amazing, and I'll sometimes say that, and sometimes it's not amazing, but it's like, oh, this is amazing.
Like, let's have a look.
Yeah, no way. Because if you think, I like it.
Oh, that's nice.
Oh no.
That's nice. I don't want that reaction. I want it to be like, wow.
Yeah, unless you're going to swoon over it, it's just not going to be.
Oh yeah, cool.
Yeah, so with that,
Again, luckily, the makeup artists that I often will work with, like usually, are putting them in a really nice light in the window. So it's not really been I think I probably would say something. If it was really obviously not going to work, I'd maybe just suggest something. I don't know, but it's very rare that's been the case.
I suppose, like you say, it doesn't really. Did you worry about it then? Because it doesn't really affect your job.
No, because I just think if the light isn't great, then I go for moment light. So
yeah, and
I can live with it.
Just makes you work more creatively, I suppose, doesn't it? And it's the same with this photo video dynamic. Like, you've just got to work with what you get.
Yeah, and I think that's important, because sometimes you're working really grand, amazing venues where everything's perfect, but that's not always going to be the case. So, but it's always about the couple's day and like the people that are there, and just getting the moments ultimately are all that really sort of makes them.
Moral of the story: everything for the couple, I guess.
Oh God, yeah.
And I think that should be something that you don't learn that. It's just who you are. Like
it's an easy answer, isn't it? Because it's just like, well, all you got to do is get on with each other, compromise, and do everything you can to keep the couple happy and do a nice job for them.
Yeah, give them a good experience.
At the expense of your ego sometimes. And it's a simple enough answer, but yet there's still people ask about it all the time and worry about it, and it's a funny one.
I think if you're asking the question, you're probably a nice person and don't need to ask the question. If it's not even coming to your head, how do I work with that with the other supplier? You're probably the one.
If I'm going to get on with it.
Yeah. But definitely they're in the minority.
Yeah, because if you're worrying about whether you're going to get on with someone, it's because you want it to work and you want to get on. So that's the right question to ask, I suppose. I think that covers it, doesn't it? It's
that'd be really good.
Like, if there's any questions, drop them in below and I'll answer them. And maybe if you could jump in, if anyone's got any specific questions for you, I'll pass them on. The only other thing I wanted to talk about was this whole the photographers now offering video kind of thing, because I don't know if it's in the photo community, but it's a big concern for videographers at the minute.
I'm sure
that there's more because we've had it great in that videography is in the minority compared to photographers. It's nowhere near as saturated, and it's just been like, let's make hay while the sun shines kind of thing.
Yeah. I think it was very similar to...
And all of a sudden, photographers are now going, oh, let's try doing video, because that's another avenue I can explore. And all the videographers are going, oh no, it's going to get flooded with photographers, and what we're going to do.
It's probably the same as like back in the day. I never shot a wedding on film, but film photographers thinking the same when digital started becoming more prevalent. And then obviously then that was just opening up the market to a bigger number of people.
I suppose in that case, a lot of the film people moved over to the digital.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. Yeah.
You just got to stay with the curve, haven't you?
Yeah, I say for me, it's something that just has. I see film as being a very different like genre to photography, and. Yeah, for me, it's.
Just lost the shower head.
Sorry. It's not personally ever interested me, I say, because I just think it's just well, one, I don't know. It's really difficult because I think if it's a bit like, I don't know, do you want to be a master of one trade or a jack of all? But on the flip side, from a business point of view, I think it probably makes sense.
This is the thing I wrestle with, because from a business, it does make absolute sense to branch out and offer, because from a couple point of view, they've got like, if you can do both really well and like have, one of you focus on photo, one of you focus on video, and do it as a team, like it's appealing to the couple to get it all from one supplier rather than having to go separate contractors. Because obviously I've got my house at the minute, and it's like I'm having to get a plumber and an electrician and you're ringing around people and chasing everyone up and getting different quotes, and it's like it'd be easier to just have it all in from that. So that does, I do think about that occasionally, but I have no interest in doing photo. So at the same time, I'm just like, I'm going to stick to what I know. Yeah,
I think the positive would be that it should, in theory, like just raise the quality across the board, because the more anyone comes, the more a market is saturated, then the quality should get higher because there's more people, the more better photographers and videographers there are. So yeah, all I can say is it's not really been any interest to me, just because I see it as being a very different genre because it's like, for example, audio, for example, like I don't have to think of audio, and I always think that's where I think in many ways we have it. Well, some parts of the day are harder for a photographer, i.e. organising group shots and all that stuff. Exactly. But on the other hand, I think remembering that you've mic'd up everyone, that your audio is working. Like I can arrive at a church, film ceremony with 10 seconds notice. You've got to like think about your audio and where you're going to put your. So it's a very different thing.
And I think that's something that people don't when they're jumping into it, that they don't necessarily think about too much.
Yeah, I think
because there's been plenty of photographers that have transitioned well, and then there's plenty of others that have gone, yeah, I'll have a crack at that video thing. I'm a photographer, and it'll be easy.
Yeah, I did work with.
Well, obviously, it's not.
There's a lot of different things to think about, isn't there?
There is, and I think this is the slight issue for brides, where it's very difficult for them. I think when you're in the industry, you can see, just within a few seconds looking at a film, like how that's been filmed, whether they've correctly set up the audio, blah blah blah. I don't think brides always see it, and that's difficult because that means they could get caught out.
They've got the photographer, and if the photographer that like you're normally the protocol for recommendations of a video, like for the couple, if they've booked you already, they'll be like, oh well, ask Neil about video, see if he knows anyone. So if they're going on a photographer's site and seeing like the kind of videos that the photographer's doing on the side whilst taking photos and then doing a bit, and then they just go, oh yeah, we'll have that'll do. That's obviously. And then they're not researching and seeing proper films.
Yeah, and I say it's not easy because, same with photographers, there is no black and white rule. If you spend X amount, you're going to get that much quality, and it's going to the quality's going to go up the more you spend. It doesn't work like that. But I would say, I know that there are like the Lawsons, Pete and Laura have gone into video and smashed it because they've done it the right way. They've basically gone in and learnt. I don't know if I should say. I've got to say, they've gone in and they've learned from the bottom, like they've not gone in charging top whack straight away, I don't believe. And I think if you do it that way and you sort of, you can learn on the job, then I think that's a good way of doing it. But yeah, I think it's something that maybe brides maybe need to be aware of, that, you know, filming it's not just a question of I've got the camera, I can go and film a wedding. You know, there's, I say, a lot more to it.
Works for me.
Yeah. Maybe give it a go.
Pick up a camera and press the button, and it's worked so far.
Well, it's funny though, because it does work the other way around, because the scary thing for me as a photographer is, what if you film a wedding, then, you know, in a couple of years' time, you can just take the stills from it, then suddenly I'm out of a job then. So it's, so then you start thinking, well,
I have an add-on where I offer images from the footage. Just as an add-on, like, it's not to replace photography, but like you say, the couple might not, they might just go, oh, that'll save us some money.
Yeah, and that's why I think it's important to really define what your style is, whatever you do, because for me, like, I basically, I'm shooting 95% of the day documentary, but I'm showing but I show the 5% often that isn't documentary, i.e. the portraits and off-camera flash stuff, because that's something you can't replicate with a video. So that's going to remain. Yeah, that's going to, unless you can take a frame like of a 250th of a second, like, still or something, but that's going to remain like something that is the domain of photography.
That's easy. I just lay like 3 clips over the top of each other, and
yeah. So it's it does work both ways, and ultimately everything, maybe it's just merging into one. I don't know, but certainly for me now at the moment, it's
happen, I think. I don't know. I'm trying to avoid it because I have no interest in doing photography whatsoever.
Well,
and I wouldn't know how.
Very different, say, skill sets, and you can have both. But I think you've got to be aware that I don't think you can just go from one to the other without, you know, at least shooting quite a few weddings for free and this sort of thing. I don't know, but yeah, I know that it's not for me.
As a separate videographer company, do I try and approach a photography company and do some sort of team up, Avenger style package,
like a one-stop shop thing?
Yeah. And just like do an exclusivity joint thing, which I'm seeing a bit of. And I don't want to give anyone ideas because I don't want to be run out of business, but I can see that happening.
Well, as I say at the beginning, I think it's what is becoming more common for me anyway, is that I'm working with couples who want video. So video is becoming something that is more commonplace. So I think it's almost inevitable that, you know, if you can offer everything, however that may be, then it's going to make it easier for couples.
At least video is getting more appreciated.
Oh, it definitely is.
We'll take that.
That's the other thing to say as well, is that not just is it becoming more commonplace, the standard has gone through the roof from 10 years ago. Like, you know, and I think a lot of that, I don't know anything about video, but it's due to the look of a DSLR, like, you know, that depth of field, but just makes it look really cinematic, and just, you think, whoa, well, that just wasn't around, like, it's back in the day.
To produce some filmy look, like cinematic looking, because of, like you say, just shallow lenses and full frame sensors and all the rest of it. Whack a bit of grain on it and post. Job done.
Easy. You changed my mind. I'm going to give this a go.
Neil, thanks, mate. Thanks for doing this.
No worries. Thank you very much for having me.
Any questions, leave them in the comments. If you like this video, like it and subscribe and all that. Do you normally say all this spiel?
Yeah, I don't think everybody does it, but yeah.
Like and subscribe and do it. And check out Neil, because Neil's channel is brilliant. If you're not already, because I'd imagine anyone subscribed to me will be.
Oh, it's very kind. Thank you.
Because there's not many of us in the UK, I don't think, doing like wedding specific.
No, it's surprising. It's really surprising me how few there are. Because when I first started mine, I looked for some, and I literally will struggle to even name you one.
Well, you mentioned that photographer in the States that you looked to before, that Tyler guy, and because I always keep an eye on the States because they just seem to be so ahead of the curve with everything.
They have, but the majority of photography YouTube channels are sort of, sounds, no pun intended, geared towards gear reviews. Like, I'm not really interested. Gear to me is a bit boring.
You do that because it gets the views, though.
Oh, of course it does, yeah. If there's a new lens out, like, put that name in the title and stuff. But
this stuff, I think, is more valuable.
Yeah, that's why I love your channel, because you're literally showing how you're editing. You're showing exactly what you do, which ultimately is more interesting and more valuable to people. It's like, again, photography channels, it's rare that you find they actually show their photos. It's weird. It's like they'll do reviews and they'll talk about, you know, whether it's weather sealed and everything about a lens, but don't show you any files, and I'd like to. What I want to see
behind the scenes and how I got this exact image. That stuff's really good.
I just think it's interesting, basically. So
it's cool. And we do digression again. I'm trying to wrap this video up. Yeah, thanks for watching. See you next time.
Thank you.
Bye. Fade out and
excellent.